So we're going to review a little bit about what we did last week. What did we do last week?
Lots of spreadsheets.
We did lots of cotton candy. Yeah.
Yes.
We did lots of spreadsheets. But we really talked about profit planning and creating a budget. And if you remember, I held up a request for a proposal or a request for information where this is a task that a lot of senior managers, junior managers have to do to gain new business. In this particular case, we started with the 6 basic steps of creating a budget. What were the 6 steps?
Establish a format.
Right.
Forecast sales.
Correct.
Forecast cost of sales.
Correct.
Forecast labor.
Correct.
Direct expenses and summarize.
Yeah, very good. So, from that standpoint, if you remember, we started with forecasting sales. And before we can forecast sales, what's the first thing we need to know? Devin, you are really good at this. We're going to forecast sales. How do we forecast sales?
Chicken sales?
We're going to take our overall sales. How do we forecast our
Projecting expected attendance.
Right. The first thing we do is we determine what the attendance is. Then what do?
Multiply it by how much each person spends.
Right, or the per capita. So if you remember, we used the example of 50,000 people, and then we times $20 per person, gave us $10 million in sales. But we also figured out that we're not going to have just one type of business, that there might be multiple types of business, right? So we might have football games, we might have college basketball games, we might have soccer, concerts, all kinds of different things. And each one of those activities carries a different type of attendance, excuse me, and a different type of per capita or per spend. So, just out of curiosity, since we're all going to guess today at a lot of these questions I asked, what sport, what event do you think draws the highest per capita? Football. Good. Wrong.
Soccer.
That's good. Soccer?
Yeah.
Wrong.
Concerts?
Very good. Not quite. You two are on the higher end.
I thought football.
Okay? So let's think in terms of violence. The more violent the sport,
Oh, boxing?
Boxing.
boxing or UFC, correct?
Really?
Yes. So why?
Because it's so fun to watch.
It's so fun to watch.
You can be
Marley,
an
why?
amateur and go and watch boxing and it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to know what's going on to still go and watch and enjoy it.
Okay, but why do people spend more money at boxing matches or UFC?
Because you're going to watch someone get hurt, so it's going to be fun.
No.
No?
Think about it.
Like
Attendance
spending on ticket wise or spending while you're there?
while you're there
While you're, oh,
on food service.
Are tickets cheaper?
you don't
What?
want you don't
Look
want
at the
to spend time.
demographics. Who goes to see those events?
More wealthy people, isn't it nice when they have they bring drinks to you, like alcohol and stuff like that, and you're
You're getting very close.
To get better
What are the
seats.
demographics? Who are people that buy? Are they kindergarten teachers?
famous people,
Sort of
wealthy
famous.
white people.
Wealthy white people, wrong. Some white people do go, but it's a mix.
I guess that's true.
It's predominantly male, and it's predominantly between the age of 18 and 30. That's the predominant audience. What do people from 18 to 30 males do?
Drink.
Fight.
Drink. What do they drink?
Alcohol.
Beer.
Alcohol. What's expensive?
Beer.
Alcohol.
Well,
So you see how this goes? So you have to figure out who your demographics are, and then what are they going to do? So boxing UFC is number one. What would number two be? Now that you have the parameters, you sort of have an understanding.
football.
WWE.
WWE is very high, but it has a very young audience as well, under 18, so therefore they don't have the highest per capita. What else? I'll give you a hint. You have to have a stick.
Hockey.
Hockey.
Oh.
Hockey. Very violent, and how many half times do they have?
Well,
They have 3 periods, so they have what they call 2 intermissions.
yeah.
Yeah.
2 intermissions.
So it's not like football where you get 1 break, you get 2 breaks. So you have a very violent sport, and you have plenty of time. Now, do you have timeouts in hockey where you can go to the restroom and come back?
Commercial break.
Commercial breaks. Yeah, but you don't have like
No.
quarters in football.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Football would probably be number 3.
Okay.
Okay. What about baseball? Why wouldn't baseball be really high?
Baseball's really boring.
Baseball is really boring. Not exciting, so you're not nervous, so you're not
People
drinking.
just relax and like chill out.
Relax and
It's-
chill
I
out.
feel like you can
Definitely
get up and go get
families.
whatever you want
Yeah.
whenever. You might miss like a home run, but
It's a family event.
yeah.
It's kind of a family event. Why? Demographics. But I would think that baseball would be good because you play 3 outs and then you have like this intermission. Then you play 3 outs and then you have an intermission. And you do that kind of scenario, 9 innings, okay? So over a period of 2 hours, right? But guess what? It's only 2 hours. So you typically will get your hot dog and your soda and you'll sit there and you kind of watch the game and you might get a little cotton candy, but you're typically not getting boozed up, so to speak. Okay? So those are just some trivia questions that may or may not interest you going forward. So we've decided that to forecast sales, we need to know the attendance, we need to know the per cap. So if we were going to have in our case history a UFC fight, what do you think the per cap might be? High, good. So this is kind of interesting. You guys are, you're kind of a classic case of, we went through all of this last week and you got it. I told Radesh and I told Ashik that you guys really got it on the first go round, okay? And now as I'm starting over again, I'm not sure you got it.
We're only 5
Or
minutes
you
into
didn't read
class.
anything until you come back.
We're only 5 minutes into class, we need to warm up.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's
Yeah,
very
it's
Okay, so let's all,
early.
let's all stand up.
No, not that kind of warm up.
Oh, yeah, I was ready to get some stretches in.
Yeah. Anybody do yoga?
Occasionally.
So one of the seminars I used to teach was about balance in your life. And I would have everyone in the class stand up. So let's do this, just for fun. Stand up, push your chair back.
Way to go, Kevin.
We're going to warm up. Stretching is good, okay?
Get us out of this.
So this activity is typically called with a tree. Anybody know what a tree is? There you go. So that's what we're going to do. You're going to take your right leg. You're going to put it on your left knee. Now you're going to hold your hands out like this. Then you're going to put your hands over your head. Right. Just rest.
This is nice.
Now you're going to put your hands down, back to your side, and you're going to swap legs and knees. See what you started, Kevin? Even old people can do this. Out, up. Now most yoga instructors would have you breathe deep, close your eyes, think of something quiet, peaceful. But not in this class. We're thinking per capita, we're thinking of hands down. Very good. Good balance. All right. Okay, so last week the per capita for football was $21. So if we were doing UFC, what would you expect the per capita to be? Higher or lower?
Higher.
Higher. Yeah, you kind of had it. I'm just trying to, walk you through the process. So you did a form last week. It was Form A, right? In the first column, we listed all the events. In the second column, we listed the number of events. In the next column, we listed the average attendance, right? So we could take the number of events times average attendance, and we knew what would the attendance probably be for the entire year. And then what did we multiply it by?
The total attendance.
Total attendance multiplied by what?
Oh, average per cap.
Average per cap. And what did that tell us?
Projected sales.
Projected sales for that category of event. And then we added everything up, correct? And if I remember, on our case history, we had 20,387,500.
500.
500, yeah, see? Good. After doing that, we realized that's what our sales were, but because of the 5 M's, now we need to know what kind of materials we needed, right? And so we took out Form B, and we looked at cost sales mix. Cost mix versus sales mix. You remember that? Yeah, and so what did we want to do there? Speaking of balance.
You wanted
When
to-
creating a menu, what did we want?
We wanted to know how much the product cost was gonna be.
Right, very good.
Cost.
And we wanted to blend low-cost items with things that were a little more higher in expense. So we always want to serve a soda with a hot dog, right? We always want to serve popcorn and drinks as well as some of the expanded menus like hamburgers and chicken tenders and some of those things. So after we figured that out, who remembers what the actual food cost was? What was Form B?
Was
You
it 4 million?
multiply,
Yeah. No. We took the total cost of sales, which was 4 million and something, and we divided it by the 20 million, right? And what did we come up with? There was a percentage. 21.37. I'm going to back up just a little bit. We had our total sales, do you remember? And it was 20,387,500, right? And we had total attendance. And total attendance was 1,475,000. Is that right?
425.
425. So if I said, what's the average per capita, how would you figure that?
6225.
What was the average per capita in the case history last week?
$21.
Nope. Couldn't be. Remember, I cautioned you. We're going to take the total attendance, okay, and we're going to divide it by the total sales. So what is 1,425,000 divided by 20,387,500?
Where'd you get that top number? I'm sorry.
This number right
I'm
here?
not following, yeah.
Okay, so if you remember, we did all the
On this
events.
one, right?
On
Form B?
Form A,
Form A?
Form A, if you remember the first column listed the events, the second column listed the number of events, the third column listed the average attendance. We multiplied the number of events times average, and we got total attendance for the year. At the bottom of that column, you were supposed to add all those numbers up. And when you added all those numbers up, the total attendance was 1,425,000. You remember that?
Yes.
I had 3 yeses. Kevin, 4 yeses.
Yes.
5 yeses. Yes, 7. All right.
Got it.
So-
Following, thank you.
What we're really, if we were in math class, what they would tell us is that this is a ratio, okay? How much money is being spent per person out of the 20 million? And the way you figure the ratio is you take this number divided by this number. Tell me what it is.
1430.
1430. Per capita, average. What was the per capita for football?
21.
21. Is that the same number?
No.
What was it for soccer?
For soccer?
Yeah.
675.
Right. So, should we take these two together, okay, add them together and divide by 2?
Yeah.
What is that number?
13.87.
13.87. Now, somehow or another, this number here does not match this number here,
But it's close.
but it's close. Okay, well, on the test, it's not close.
Well,
See, what most people do, they know their math, and what they would do is add up all the individual per capitas and then divide by, what is it, 5? Do we have 5 categories?
Right.
That's wrong. And the reason it's wrong is because each one of the categories carries a different weight. So for example, if you look at football, how strong is football?
Wrong.
$10 million in sales? It's over half of the business is done in football at $21 per cap. How much of the business is done in soccer?
6.75. Or I'm sorry.
2 million.
2 million, 20%, okay? Or 10% of the total business is done in soccer. So football at 50% carries out a whole lot more weight than soccer. That make sense? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just to make sure I'm with you. So when you're finding the per capita,
Right.
is that specific to anything? It's just like I could add football and concerts.
No,
No?
no. That's what I'm cautioning you about.
So don't just do anything.
Right. So let's break this down. We're going to do one event first.
So is there no one particular formula per, like, to figure out the average event attendance? There's not like a
Yes,
particular thing?
I'm giving you the formula. And what's happening is I'm reading your eyes knowing you don't understand it yet.
Okay.
So let me walk through it again.
I'm confused.
I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to go slow. Might help if I use this piece of paper. Close to the board.
It makes sense when you're saying it, but then when I think about doing it on my own, I'm like, oh God, no.
Okay, so I'm going to give you another hint. On Form A at the bottom, there are instructions. So let's look at the instructions. Jessica, tell me what's instruction number 1,
Enter event type by general category.
which we did, right? And how many event types were there? Right. So for simplicity's sake, let's just do 1 so you get a feel for it, okay? We're going to do football. Okay, how many events? How many football games?
10.
10. Thank you. Where did you find that number?
I think you told us that.
On Form A.
Or no, it was in the book.
Yeah, it's in the case history. So the case history says we're going to have football games. There are 10 of them, okay? And what's the average attendance?
50,000.
Events times attendance equals what? Total attendance for the year. And that number would be, I'm thinking, 500,000.
Correct.
So we got 500,000 people coming to football games. Kevin, what are the total sales for football? It's going to be 10 million.
Oh, 10,050,000.
So we know at the end of the year, we count all our pennies, and we have $10,050,000 in the bank. Here's the question. And this, people are going to ask you this question in this business. What was your per capita during the football season?
21.
How do you know? You cheated.
It says it in the book.
What you're going to do is you're going to take total sales, and you're going to divide it by total attendance. Total sales divided by attendance.
Total attendance or attendance?
Total attendance. If you're using total sales, you're going to use total attendance. Total sales divided by total attendance equals what?
Per cap.
Per cap, and it was $21. That's the per spend. Okay, we just did football, right? But there are 5 of those. So what we did last week is we did 5 examples, and to get the total picture of the entire facility, we added all 5 categories together. That make sense?
Yeah.
So we can't necessarily take $21 plus $6.25 plus it was one in there at $9. Am I right?
Yeah, 950.
950,
675.
18
And 7.
and 7. So if you added those 5 together and divided by 5, you want to do that for me, Kevin?
$12.45.
$12.45, okay, would be the average per capita without any weight. If we just took those 5 numbers, added them together, divide by 5, $12 would be the average per capita. But what happens is football's much stronger. There are 10 events at 50,000 people at $21. That's a whole lot more than soccer at $675. I think concerts, there were 5 concerts, am I correct, at 60,000? So that's what, 300,000 people? That's pretty strong for only 5 events. And the per capita was pretty high, right?
18.
Yeah, so that's going to weight the average higher. So that's why you can't do it singularly. You have to do it
You have to do each event by itself.
as a whole. That's right. So in this particular case, we're going to take total sales, which is 20 million. We're going to divide by the total attendance for the entire year, all categories combined, and that's going to equal 1430. You have to be careful. Okay? You get it now, Caroline?
I'm trying to see the
Total
problem
sales
that
divided
led
by
to
what?
the 1430.
You trying to see what?
The problem that led to 1430.
Okay. We had a total of attendance, right? You added that whole column up. What column is that? 4?
4, yes.
You had column 4 up, and it's 1,425,000 people are going to come to this stadium this year. And because we have that many people, we're going to generate $20 million, $387,500. So if we take the total sales and we divide it by total attendance, it's going to tell us what our average per capita is at that facility for that year. So it's not 21 because of football, it's not 675 because of soccer, it's not 18. We have to blend them all together, and what we're really now getting is what we call a sales mix.
And that gives us, what is the 1430?
If you take this number divided by that number, it should be
The
1430.
average per capita?
That's the average per capita. If Kevin did his math right, I didn't do the math.
Fingers crossed, guys.
So,
So on the test, will you ask for average per capita and per capita? Like, will you clarify what you're asking for? Okay.
Can you go
so
over?
what your test is going to be, your test is going to be a case history very similar to what you have in the book. And you're going to have all of those forms. And you're going to have to fill out all the forms, A, B, C, D, E, F. And then the questions on the exam will relate back to those. So for example, one of the questions might be, what do you expect total sales in football to be? Where would you find it? Where would you find it?
Form A.
Form A, where?
Number 6?
Yeah, number 6.
Number 6. It might say, what are the total expected sales for the facility? Where would you find that?
The total, the 20 million.
That's 20 million, that's
Yeah.
correct. It might say, what is the per capita, expected per capita for the year? Well, where would you find that?
C.
Where?
C.
C, that's correct. It's column 5 at the bottom.
Wait,
So is the answer for C, is that 6225 or is it 1430?
1430.
Okay.
See, because what you're going to do is you're going to take column B, as the instructions say, and divide it by column A, and that will give you C. That make sense? Okay.
Our test isn't until like next month, right?
No, your test is next week.
Next
oh
week?
my
It
goodness.
doesn't say that on the syllabus.
Yeah, well, too bad. The test is next week. Now here's what's interesting for me. As an instructor, we did this last week. What was your homework?
To
You didn't
familiarize
give any.
myself with it.
I did.
Oh.
I said, read the chapter. I said, everything we've talked about is in the chapter, step by step. If you read the chapter, you will understand what we did. What I learned is that you didn't read, 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 you didn't read. Is that fair? So here's what I want to say. If you want me to come to class prepared, I hope that you'll come to class prepared. Right? Jessica, when you went to your interview, were you prepared?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, why did you prepare for the interview?
Because it's important.
It was important. You placed priority on that, right? Okay. I get it. I was a student too. I didn't read. All right? I'm just telling you, if you want to understand this, you kind of have to follow what instructions we give you. I'm trying to get you there. Okay, so we did Form A, then we went to Form B, right? Form B was to figure out the materials. So since I've learned so much about A now, I'm going to ask you some questions about B. What's the first thing you do on Form B?
You go and do your percent sales.
Yeah.
The first thing you do is put total sales in the upper right-hand corner.
Or that.
Everything you do from here on out. That's why this number is so important. All the other forms are going to be related directly to this 20 million. All right.
Projected annual sales, not total sales, or is that the same thing?
Same thing. That's the same thing. Projected total annual sales, same thing. All right, so let's now talk about what we did. In column A, okay, excuse me, the column 1, we listed all the items we had. And Kevin very adeptly pointed out, why is there tobacco? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, and we told the story about how old I am and how we used to sell cigarettes in the concession stands. All right, so we see we have a list of different products, and they're all sold at different rates. So where did we find column B, the percent of sales?
In the book.
It's in the book. It's in the case history. So hot dogs was 20%, am I right? How did we get the sales, the total dollar sales? Column 3.
You do total sales times percent of sales.
That's right, good. And that gave us what our hot dog sales were going to be. Now the next column is, what is our product cost? So each product that you sell is going to have a different percentage theoretical cost. In other words, perfect, no mistakes. So where did we get that number?
The book.
It was in the book. What was the percent?
32.
32. So we're going to take the total sales times 32%, and it's going to tell us how much money we need to buy all the ingredients for hot dogs. And we repeated that process all the way down through there, correct? And if you remember, we got down to other foods. I think it was 19%, am I correct? And I told you it's sort of a shortcut. That in real life scenarios, you're going to have hamburgers and chicken tenders and cheeseburgers, and you're going to have pizza and all kinds of different things. But to shorten the class and make it a little easier for you, we just combined all that into one category called other foods. And what was the product cost on that? What was the product cost on other foods?
34%.
34%. Thank you. Very good. Right. So we got through Form A and Form B. Now what this Form B is telling us is that we sell different items at different rates. Typically, I gave you a couple of numbers. When we sell beverages, what percent of sales, the total sales, come from beverages? Do you remember? Kind of gave you a generic number. Holds true.
So you just add up cold soda and beer?
You
Is that
could.
all?
You could, but I'm just talking in general terms. If you go into this business, and let's just say you get a job at the Liberty Bowl Stadium as the general manager for concessions and food service, how much in sales will come from beverages?
50%.
50%. Very good. And a typical cost for cold beverages as a percent, you remember that number? Somewhere between 10 and 12%. Why do I keep harping on these particular numbers?
Because they're important.
They're important. Why else, Jessica?
They'll be on the exam.
They might be on the exam. See, you're starting to learn me a little bit. Very good. All right, so we know that typical sales in these venues on the beverage side is about 50%. In this case, what is sodas?
You said cold beverages were 10 to 12%?
That's the cost. So let's look at your sodas right there. What is the percent of sales for sodas?
11.
11%, so it's between 10 and 12. What's the total percent of sales, not cost? You remember?
Total, like average?
On that sheet that I gave you, in the book, the scenario, it says cold soda is how much? What volume of total sales?
50%.
15%, thank you. And then cold beer is how much? 38. What's 38 plus 15? I'm going to guess 53%. Okay? So again, we're kind of in that 50% range. A lot of times if you're not selling beer, sodas will be 50%. When you start to add beer and alcohol sales, that's going to take away from some of the sodas, but it'll increase, and you're basically what we call cannibalizing those sales and merging those into a different category or a different channel. Okay, so that's review on B. Now, one of the traps that a lot of people fall into is that if you look at all the different cost of sales, Carolyn, can you tell me the list of cost of sales in B? What are hot dogs?
Hot dogs, 32%.
Okay, and sodas?
11%,
Okay, and beer?
14%.
And what else?
Hot drinks, 13%, popcorn, 8%, peanuts, 33%, ice cream, 38%, candy, 35%, tobacco, 31%, other, 34%.
Okay, very good. So how would we figure out what our average cost of goods is? What is our average cost of goods?
Would that be the food cost as a percentage?
Yes.
So you would do the dollar amount divided by the projected sales.
Correct. Excellent. And that number was? 21.37%.
37%.
That's right. And
you
where
said
most...
round to 2.
2, that's correct. Now, where most people make mistakes... Go ahead.
I was asking her to repeat
Food
that.
cost as a percentage.
So what you're going to do, again, the instructions will tell you to take column number 5, the total, which is D on your sheet, and divide it by C. So you're going to take your total dollar cost. Am I right? Was it $4 million? 4,356. 808. And we're going to divide it by what number? 20. How do you know that? So do you remember I said if you add up all of column 3, okay, C should equal what's up here in the right-hand corner. If it doesn't, what's happened?
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong, you made a mistake. This column right here, B, when you add that up at the bottom, what should it equal?
100%.
If it's 99, what's wrong? You made a mistake. If it's 102, what happened? There's something wrong. Gotta go back. Okay? Raise your hand, Mr. Rudder, I got a problem.
So total dollars cost divided by total sales.
Right, again, it's the same thing as a ratio, okay? So in food cost, you're going to take the food cost in dollars, and you're going to divide that by total sales, which is dollars, and that's going to give you a percent. In this case, it was 21.37. Again, on the exam, one of the questions might be, what are the expected sales for beer? Where would you find that? Expected sales for draft beer.
Column 3,
Column 3. And the number is?
7,747.
There you go. So you might see 700,000, you might see 100,000, you might see 20 million. I don't know, but it's going to be multiple choice. Then the next question is, what do you expect the average food cost to be? Where would you find that? E. Very good. You follow, Rachel? Okay. Carolyn? Okay, so we can't go forward until we know so. So here's the question. What is the total average food cost for this facility? Where would you find that?
We're talking about the food cost percentage? Or-
Yes.
Okay, that's the total dollar amount of product cost divided by projected annual sales.
Correct.
It's 21.37%.
Right. Where is it at on your sheet?
E.
E. Excellent. So now we can go forward. Are you okay, Marley? Ariel?
Yeah. Oh, I'm alright.
I like that. She was waving at you. Or were you just kind of going like? Is that the
Like
princess
this.
way? Oh, you meant like this. You didn't mean like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's shaking? I heard somebody shaking.
I think I'm just gonna have to go home and just like practice these like over and over and over again, just to make sure that I am getting it down.
Mr. Etter, your professor, okay, has given you the instructions right here. So if you go home and you want to practice, ask yourself some sample questions like I'm asking. Okay? What if I said, what's the food cost for hot dogs? What would you say to me?
So on the test, we're gonna be given a case study, right?
Right.
And then just no instructions, just this part, this chart, or are the instructions gonna be on there to help us out?
The instructions are going to be on there.
Awesome,
my
okay.
That's really good.
That's
That's
gonna help
I
us.
bet he would do that without the instructions.
I was thinking the instructions were gonna be on there.
That's why I was kind of freaking out. I was like, that's a lot.
Yeah. it's a-
Y'all, I wouldn't have
She
been
had
able to
faith in
memorize
you.
all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what do
we
you
were all like,
memorize?
No, I mean, like, it's nice to have something to, like, use as a guide.
Yeah, so you're going to get this very same form. It's
Yeah.
going to be blank. You're going to get that case study.
But it's gonna have all of this, too.
Yeah.
It's not just gonna.
But you're not
be-
allowed
I
to
can
use
work
that
with
sheet.
that.
No, I'm
Well,
saying,
that's-
like, just
Okay, all your notes.
as a guide.
Yeah. But see, you asked earlier about the formulas. It's a very simple formula. If you go this direction, you take the total sales times the percent of the business times the cost.
Wait, percent what?
Percent of sales always has to equal 100, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, back up. We have hot dogs, right?
Yes.
What percent of the business is hot dogs?
What, you mean the percent of sales?
Yes.
20%.
So we take the total sales times the percent of business. So what would that be?
It's gonna give you the dollar amount.
For what?
Wait, what
For
do you
hot
mean-
dogs.
I'm sorry,
For
what do you
hot
mean percent of business? 'Cause I feel like,
Percent of sales.
Percent of
20%
sales.
of the
He's
two.
saying the difference.
okay, can you
20%
say it the
of
same,
each
just for
amount.
my own
Okay.
sanity? Because when you mix up the vernacular, it really
Hot
throws me
dogs
off.
that. I
account,
feel like-
listen.
Oh, she's got it, she's right. What I'm saying is total business and it should,
Your
she said total
It's
sales.
really throwing me off when you change the language.
Your percent of sales are
Yes.
what, in the business,
You're right.
that's what it accounts for in the business.
So when we say
20%
sales-
of the business, 20%
Of the
of
20
the
million.
total amount of money that you're bringing into the company.
Yes,
That is the percent of sales
understood.
for each separate object.
Okay,
So 20% of the business goes for hot dogs, 15% of the business goes for cold soda,
and so on and so on.
and so on.
Yeah, so
Okay.
business and total sales are the same term.
So
And
you
the
divide total
the-
sales by the 20% to get that number.
You don't divide, you multiply.
Where's the case study? Maybe if
I feel like we're all confusing ourselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's the first time you've seen this. Remember I told you about riding a bicycle. The first time you ride a bicycle, you usually crash, right? And then you get back on the bicycle and you do it again and it's a little smoother. Third or fourth time, you got it. And so for an old person like me, this is old hat. So I have to take my knowledge and experience and slow way down because this is the first time you've seen it.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
Okay, so the percent of sales for A, you know that because of the case study, okay, cool. And then the dollar amount of sales, you would get that by, okay, it's not in the case study, so I would do.
What is that?
The projected annual sales,
It is in the case study.
wait, for number 3, the dollar amount of sales?
The dollar amount of sales is not in the case study. How do you figure
have to
that?
look at Form A.
Yeah, that's what I just
too.
said, it's not in the case study.
Yes, it is. Form A,
You have
remember?
to look at Form A, they all go together.
Right. So when you do Form A, I'm gonna walk over here and help.
You have to remember every number that you get from Form A to be able to use on Form B.
Okay, so you used Form A, okay, and you created total sales.
Yes, and I have that at the top.
That's right, so there's total sales right there. So you're gonna take 20% times that, gives you that.
Yes,
15% of that gives you that.
yes.
And that's how you go all the way down. Now, if I needed money to go buy hot dogs and buns and ketchup and all that, okay? I know that theoretically, in the next class, we're gonna see that the recipe is 32% of the cost of the hot dog?
Right now.
Okay, so that's a good question.
Okay, cool, it's on the case study.
Yeah.
It's on the case study.
Skip it.
As we get more and more developed in the class, you're gonna see when we get to hopefully this will work.
I'm so upset.
You asked the question, how do we know when hot dogs are 34%, right?
Yes, because
Okay,
we know that,
so-
it tells right here.
Well, hot dogs, okay, on the menu are $3.25. That's what we're selling them for. Now we have to have a recipe for hot dogs.
Hot water.
What's the first thing we need?
A bun.
Hot water.
Hot water, yeah, that's cute.
A bun.
You don't need hot water, by the way. You're gonna learn that in about 15
Just need
minutes.
determination.
A bun. The first thing you need is a bun, right?
Yes.
I think you need a hot dog first, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
say a
I
hot
think so.
dog itself. Okay? And the hot dog itself costs 65 cents. Okay?
That's it.
Now, what's the next thing you need?
A bun.
A bun. Okay, and the bun is, let's say, 14 cents. What else do you need?
Mustard.
Mustard.
So we could do ketchup,
Condiments.
mustard,
Relish.
relish, otherwise known as condiments. Okay? So let's just say condiments are 15 cents. Now how do we know how many ketchup they're going to use?
We don't.
How many mustard they're going to use?
We don't.
Relish. So we take an average, we just say one of each. So for example, maybe ketchup is a nickel, and mustard is 4 cents, and relish is 6 cents. We'd end up with 15 cents. Now, do we need anything else for this hot dog?
Maybe
Maybe
a
a
bun.
little-
Put other.
A napkin or a container, okay? So let's just assume that the container is 10 cents.
This is for the product cost percent, right?
Yes.
That's what we're
Well, what I'm trying, in the book, so what's gonna happen in this class is, we're starting here with the big picture, the overall budget. And so I'm giving you the numbers. Next week, we're gonna break it down, and we're gonna start talking about one specific event. We're gonna talk about one game. How many hot dogs do I need for that game? How many buns do I need? How much ice do I need? How many cups do I need? We're gonna plan an event. When we get past that, we're gonna have to figure out, where did we get the 32%? Okay, so that's cost controls. So what we're doing is we're starting up here, and then we're gonna get like this, and then we're gonna get like this, and then we're gonna get like this. Okay, so now you're getting the big picture, and then as we go forward, you're gonna understand why we wanna get down to the smaller picture. All right? I'm helping you right now.
Yeah, I'm making sure that I'm keeping up with
So
you.
Kevin, you're the mathematician. What's 65 plus 14 plus 15 plus 10?
This is just a hypothetical.
Yeah, this is just,
This is
yes.
just a hypothetical.
I'm trying to help her understand how we got to the 32%.
1.4 or
1.04.
Yeah.
So our cost for the hot dog is $1.04,
Yes,
right?
sure is.
Now, if we wanted to figure out a percentage of food cost, what would we do?
We would take that, and we know the percent says it's 20%.
No.
You would take,
We're going to take that, okay, and divide by what we're getting for the hot dog. So it's a ratio. So to get $3.25, we have to spend $1.04 on product or materials. Okay? So Kevin, do that for me real quick.
32.
32%.
Looky here.
And that's how you got to the 32%.
Hot man.
You know, I'm really good because I did this on the fly and I just made these numbers up.
You sure did. I watched you do it.
Yeah. I'm pretty good.
Yeah, snaps.
That's,
Nose goes.
Nose goes. Whatever. All right. So here we are, and we're
All right.
back to the point where I actually wanted to start class today.
Oh.
So we've spent 50 minutes getting to where we want to start.
We needed some review. We
Well,
needed.
that's okay. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Remember the bicycle.
Right.
We got on the bicycle. We fell off. We're back up on the bicycle.
We're about to start pedaling again.
We're gonna start pedaling, except this time, if I remember correctly, we started on C, Form C, which is labor. So you remember the 5 M's. We talked about what? Manpower, materials, methods, money, and machines. Very good. What we've talked about so far is materials.
Okay.
Now we're gonna talk about manpower.
So, for the test, we're gonna have to do forms A, B, C,
D, E, F.
Lord, okay.
You're past the hardest part. From
Okay.
here going forward, it
I'll
gets
be
really
the judge
easy.
of that.
Okay. We're gonna let you be the judge of that. I'm gonna switch over here because I have my book and my forms over here. So, let's turn the page. If you guys were on page 93 in the book, at the top of the page of 94, it says staffing patterns. I want you to take the form that I passed out today, the one that says Form C. It's the same form that's in the book. The form I gave you last week was a little bit confusing, and I think we can fix it if I use these forms. Okay? We're going to practice again. Everything you need is in the book. So, let's look at the different categories of management. We have managers, we have hourly, we have people that work generically all over the stadium, and then we have some that are very specific to a task, such as concessions or vending or hawkers. So, if we look at Form C, the very first one, it's management. In the book, how many managers do we have?
1.
One general manager. So, in that column where it says number, you would put 1. What is their weekly wage?
1,600.
1,600. Do you see that?
Wait,
You're right here.
yeah, because our pages are off, so I was trying to.
Okay, so let's go right here. Yep. You're right here. Yeah, 93.
Oh, it's,
Right there. General manager, you need 1. What do they make? 1,600. How many weeks a year do they work? 52. Now the instructions at the, that's not 16,000, it's 1,600. The instructions at the bottom of the book, or the bottom of the page, will tell you, you multiply the weekly wage times the number of weeks, and that tells you what their annual sales are. Okay, so now I want you guys to complete the rest of the sheet. How many assistant managers do you have? How many assistant managers? Good. And what does that assistant manager make?
1250.
Good. And how many weeks? Right. So you're going to multiply this times that and get that. This times that and get that. This times that and get that. First person to finish the test, this little sample, gets a movie pass. How's that? Gotta get the right number though. Who was that?
Me.
Okay.
This is the annual cost column, right?
Yeah, so what's the annual cost?
Oh, like adding them all?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have them yet.
done.
When you're not done.
I was moving.
Yeah, you're okay.
He's like,
Is
I was
it-
making fun of Ariel.
204,360?
204,360. I would agree with that. Let's see if everybody else comes up with the same number.
Mhm.
241,800.
Is that what you thought?
No, she got 204,000.
Yeah, I got 241,800.
That's the correct
Darn
number.
you all.
You get the movie pass.
Can we do more movie passes?
Yes.
I would like to get a lot more.
So that goes in C.
That would go in C, correct? That's correct.
You don't wanna hear about how y'all did with, Black Panther.
Okay.
Opening last night.
Okay. The first thing you're supposed to do, Form C, what do you put in the upper right-hand corner?
The total sales.
The total sales.
Yep, so you're gonna put the 20,387,500.
Top right
That's
corner.
the number we've been using the whole time, that 20 million.
Oh, from earlier.
Remember, Rachel, if you do Form A wrong, everything going forward is going to be wrong.
Well, that's a high possible, so, yeah.
Practice, practice.
Yeah.
Now, I have a special surprise that I'll give you guys later, but I'm not gonna give it to you
I'm only here for prizes.
Is it hot dogs?
right now. No. You're gonna really like
Cause I
it.
saw those.
I'm here for the hot dogs.
Okay,
Look, they're rolling. Oh my gosh.
Aw, how
Wait for
cute.
it. There it is.
jeez. Those of you with such small minds.
It's the simple
Sorry,
things.
I appreciate
Yeah.
the small things.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
appreciate the
so
small
you should have come up with 241,800. What happened to you, Ariel? Why did you get 204?
I added them up really quick.
Okay.
She wanted to get the
Really
movie
wanted the
pass.
movie pass, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got this number. Now, in the case study, it's going to say something about PR-related costs. Those are payroll-related costs. You remember I said you got FICA, you've got workman's compensation insurance, all these different mandated expenses. You remember me going through all of that? Okay. And what's it say in the book? What are the payroll expenses?
14%.
14. So you're going to take the 241 right here, multiply it times 14, 14% under the D, and put it in D.
Put 14 under
It
Yeah,
is
there's a little
14.
percentage spot right there. You can put in 14%. So you're going to take 241 times 14%. That's right. So you get a movie pass.
Is it 33,000?
33,000 something.
And that needs to go right underneath the 14.
No. Just put it where it says D.
And that would be the total payroll percentage?
No.
No.
Percent.
Now we're going to add the 241,800 plus the 33,000, and you're going to tell me what the total expense is for management.
275, 652.
275,650.
So you.
Write that down.
So
Wait, don't you get that number?
800 divided by.
Nope, 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 nope. No dividing. We're not dividing. We're
Wait, how did
adding.
we get that number?
What number?
The number you just said that I needed to write down. I was
You
writing
added
this.
241.
So if you look in the book,
Where does that number go?
on page 93, you look at E, it says payroll-related cost. Payroll-related average 14%. We put the 14% right under the D. Okay? We multiply 14% times 241 and you got 33,000. So even though we pay the managers 241,800, we still have $33,000 in expense it's going to cost the business. So you're going to add the 241 plus the 33, and like Kevin says, you come up with 275,000.
Yes.
Yes. But where does that number go?
Yeah.
So that was.
Just put it on the bottom.
And that, what's that number, like?
That's
title?
total management expense.
275,652.
No.
No.
Well, no.
B is actually how many employees you have working. So you would add up. How many employees do we have?
4.
Right. Now, I will tell you on the exam, it gets a little trickier because there might be more than one person working in a particular job. So you might have 2 office
So
managers.
you add C and D together?
You add C and D together, that's correct.
And then,
And you get 275,652?
That's exactly what you get.
and that's the total number that they spend on.
On management.
Okay.
And you remember we talked about variable cost and fixed cost. Is this variable or fixed? Marley got it. Marley knows. Is that 275 variable or fixed? It's fixed. Why did you say fixed?
Because they get paid the salary.
They get
Salary.
paid regardless if we do 20 million or 19 million or 22 million. It's a fixed cost. Okay?
So, just so I have the formula correct, the total management expense is the total annual cost plus the
Payroll.
total payroll percentage?
Yes. Okay, so now let's figure out what percent of our $20 million is for management. How would you figure that? What total percent of the money that we're spending on management? How would you do that?
Would you
You
divide
would
that number?
divide it by the total sales.
Correct. What number?
20,387,500.
What number is divided?
No,
No.
275,
Correct.
62.
Okay, so you would take the 275, 652 divided by 20 million, 387, 500, and that's going to tell you what percentage of the sales go just for management labor.
Say that one more time. 1.3.
1.3 is correct.
Where does
You have a
that go?
question, Caroline?
How did we get there? Walk me through it.
Okay, walk them through it slowly. Okay, so we have these managers, right? How many managers do we have?
4.
So we got these 4 people working, and we're going to pay them $275,652 for the year, annual salaries. This is what we're paying out annually. How did we get this number?
You
There you
added
go.
up the annual cost and then.
Yeah.
We took 241,000, which is what we're giving him payroll, right?
And added it to 33.
And we added 33,000 what?
850.
852. Okay, those two together give us what our total expense is to manage this account. In this particular case, how much money does this account make us?
1.3%.
No. How much money does this account make for us? What are the total sales? What is the business? The total sales is 20,387,500. So the question we want to ask ourselves, I got to hire managers to work. They're going to run this building for me. How much money do I need to pay to get this kind of sales? So if I get my 4 managers and I pay them at the different rates, right? I'm going to be out this much money. So how does that relate to this? The way it relates is we take this number here, just like we did food cost, and you're going to divide it by 20,387,500. In other words, again, it's a ratio. When we were talking about food cost, we had we need $4 million to buy hot dogs and beer and sodas and tobacco and candy and peanuts and ice cream, all that stuff. We needed $4 million to generate $20 million. Make sense? Okay, to manage this, how much money do we need in manpower, management labor, to generate this? Well, it looks like 275,000. Or, as a percentage, it's 1.3%. Did I do that right?
It's 1.3.
Yeah.
1.3.
Well,
So on the test, there might be a question that says, what is the management payroll expense as a percentage? 5.3, 1.1, 2.1, none of the above.
And the above.
None of the above, because the answer is,
1.3.
and that wasn't one of the options. Yes, ma'am.
you might, well, the number that I got, you would round, because it's 0.0135.
Yes.
Would you round to 1.4?
Normally you would, yes. So, did you do it wrong, Kevin?
I didn't round it.
You didn't round it. Yes, you would round up. Okay. There's another movie pass. Anytime you correct Kevin, you get a movie pass.
Come on.
Okay, this might be the question. See if you follow along. Without payroll-related cost, what is the expected percentage for management? without payroll, what is it
241,800.
divided by?
The
20 million.
Right.
38,
That's it. You got the first part. You need the percentage.
1.2.
1.2.
That's rounded
You
percent.
round it.
That's rounded.
Yeah, I learned.
Okay. Kevin gets one now because he got it right.
Finally.
Okay, so we've gone an hour. I'm going to stop here, okay?